She texted from my phone. I just texted your mom that you hate her and never want to see her again. You need to cut her off. I replied from my computer, understood. Then I called my mom, explained everything, and we booked a 2-week family reunion trip to Hawaii, forwarding her all the confirmations. When she saw the Instagram posts, my girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years, and for about 23 of those months, I thought she was the one. Then, yesterday afternoon, she used my own phone to detonate our life. It all happened while I was in the shower. I came out, getting ready for a dinner we were supposed to have with friends, and saw my phone on the nightstand. There was a text message on the screen, but it was from my girlfriend, Alice. That was weird, since she was in the living room. The message read, "I just texted your mom that you hate her and never want to see her again. You need to cut her off." I stood there for a solid minute, just dripping water on the floor, trying to make sense of the words. It felt like a prank, but a really cruel one. I swiped over to my message thread with my mom, and there it was, sent from my phone 10 minutes ago. "I can't do this anymore. You've been a destructive force in my life, and I'm done. I hate you. Don't contact me again. I never want to see you again." My blood went cold. My mom and I are close. My dad passed away 5 years ago, and it's just been her since then. We talk almost every day. That message would absolutely crush her. Before I could even process the rage, I saw the 3 little dots that show someone is typing. It was Alice, sending another message to my phone. "She's your past. I'm your future. Time to choose." Something inside me just switched off. The shock, the hurt, it all got shoved into a box and locked away. What was left was this strange, cold calm. I didn't yell. I didn't storm into the living room. I walked over to my desk, sat down at my computer, and opened my messaging app, which is linked to my phone. I saw her message, waiting for a reply. I typed back one word: understood. Then I picked up my phone and called my mom. She answered on the first ring, her voice choked with tears. It was one of the worst sounds I've ever heard. She could barely speak, just kept asking what she did wrong, what had happened. I cut her off gently. "Mom, listen to me very carefully. That wasn't from me. Alice took my phone and sent that message." The silence on the other end was heavy. Then came a wave of relief so powerful, I could feel it through the phone. She started asking why Alice would do something so horrible. I told her we could talk about that later. But right now, I needed to know she was okay. I told her I loved her and that the message was a disgusting lie. As we were talking, an idea formed in my head. It was clear, simple, and felt like the only logical next step. "You know what?" I said, my voice steady. "We haven't taken a real trip, just the 2 of us, since Dad died. How about we go somewhere? A family reunion, just you and me. Let's go next week." She was surprised, said it was too much, too last minute. I insisted. "Mom, we're doing this. Where do you want to go?" "Anywhere." She hesitated, then said she'd always wanted to see Hawaii. "Done," I said. I pulled up a travel website on my computer while we were still on the phone. 2 first-class tickets to Maui, booked. A 2-bedroom suite at a beachfront resort for 2 weeks, booked. Rental car, booked. I paid for it all, right then and there. As the confirmation emails started rolling in, I did one last thing. I forwarded every single one of them. The flight itinerary, the hotel reservation, the car rental confirmation, to Alice's personal email address. I didn't add a subject line or a message. The documents spoke for themselves. I finished the call with my mom, promising to see her the next day. Then I stood up, got dressed, and walked into the living room where Alice was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with a smug little smile on her face. She looked up, that smile still there, expecting me to start a fight or beg or something. I just looked at her and said, "Our dinner reservation is in an hour. We should probably get going." The confusion on her face was just the beginning. Looking back, the signs were there. Alice had always been a little weird about my mom. When we first started dating, she was perfect. She was charming, she laughed at my mom's stories, she even called her just to chat sometimes. It was one of the things that made me fall for her. She seemed to get how important family was to me. But over the last 6 months, things started to shift. It was subtle at first. Little comments, like saying my mom was a bit traditional, or that she depended on me too much. She started trying to create distance. If I was on the phone with my mom, Alice would come into the room and start talking to me, trying to interrupt. If I made plans to have Sunday dinner at my mom's house, Alice would suddenly have a migraine or a work emergency she'd forgotten about. She never said, "Don't go," but she made it clear she disapproved. She'd say things like, "Don't you think you're a little old to be running to your mommy every weekend?" I defended my mom every time, telling Alice that my relationship with my mother was not up for discussion. I thought it was just a phase, some kind of insecurity. I figured she'd get over it. The other major issue was money. I have a good job and I'm careful with my finances. Alice moved into my apartment about a year ago. I own the place, so she doesn't pay rent, but we agreed she would contribute to utilities and groceries. For the first few months, she did. Then the payments became less frequent. She was always a little short this month, or waiting for a big check to clear. I never pushed it. I could afford to cover things, and I didn't want to create tension over a few $100s. But I noticed she never seemed to be short on money for new clothes or expensive nights out with her friends. About 3 months ago, she started pushing for a joint bank account. It would be so much easier to manage our expenses, she'd said. I told her I preferred to keep our finances separate. It's a principle I've always had. It keeps things clean. She got really upset, accused me of not trusting her, of not seeing a real future with her. I held my ground. I see now that my refusal to merge our finances was probably a major roadblock in her long-term plan. She saw my money as our money, and my refusal to give her direct access to it was a problem she needed to solve. Isolating me from my mom, my biggest supporter, and the person who would immediately tell me if she suspected something was wrong, was clearly step one. So, at dinner that night, Alice was visibly on edge. She kept checking her phone under the table, probably waiting for me to explode about the text messages. But I acted like nothing was wrong. I talked to our friends, I laughed, I told a story about a funny thing that happened at work. I was the perfect, normal boyfriend. Alice just picked at her food, watching me with a confused and suspicious look. The power dynamic had shifted. She had expected a tearful, dramatic confrontation where she held all the cards. Instead, I gave her nothing. She was the one who was off balance. When we got home, the act dropped. The second the door closed, she rounded on me. "Did you not see my messages?" she demanded. I just shrugged, taking off my jacket. "I saw them." Her eyes narrowed. "And? That's it? You have nothing to say?" "I understood the message," I said, my voice flat. "You made your position clear. So did I." That's when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and I saw her face drain of color. She had seen the forwarded emails. She looked up at me, her mouth opening and closing. "Hawaii? You're going to Hawaii with her? What is this?" "It's a family reunion," I said calmly. "You said I needed to cut my mother off. I decided to do the opposite. You told me to choose." I did. She started yelling then, screaming about how I had betrayed her, how I was supposed to be on her side. She said my mother was a manipulative old woman who was trying to control my life and that she was only trying to protect me. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. "You tried to protect me by impersonating me and sending a hateful message to my grieving mother?" I asked. "That's a funny way of showing it." The argument went in circles. She cried, she screamed, she accused. Through it all, I just felt empty. The woman I thought I loved was a stranger, a manipulative and cruel person I didn't recognize. Finally, I told her it was over. "We're done, Alice. I want you to pack your things and be out of my apartment by the end of the weekend." That's when the entitlement really came out. "You can't kick me out," she yelled. "I live here. I have rights." I reminded her that her name wasn't on the mortgage or any of the bills. She had never been more than a guest. A long-term guest, but a guest nonetheless. She started making threats then. She said she would tell everyone I was a monster, that she would ruin my reputation. I told her to do whatever she felt she had to do. Then I went into the bedroom and locked the door. I could hear her throwing things in the living room for a while, but eventually it went quiet. The next day, when I came home from work, she was gone. But she had taken more than just her clothes. A laptop from my home office was missing, along with a few other expensive electronics. And she had left a note on the kitchen counter. It wasn't an apology, it was a list of demands. She wanted $5,000 for emotional distress. She wanted another $5,000 for the time and effort she had put into decorating the apartment. And she claimed I had given her the laptop and that I owed her for it. The audacity was almost impressive. I took a picture of the note, then crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. I spent the rest of the evening changing the locks and installing a couple of security cameras. The weekend was quiet. It was strange being in the apartment alone after so long. On Sunday, I went to my mom's place. The relief on her face when she saw me was all the confirmation I needed that I'd done the right thing. We talked for hours, and I told her everything. About Alice's little comments, the money issues, everything. My mom confessed she had never fully trusted Alice. She said there was always something in her eyes that seemed calculating. She just never said anything because she wanted me to be happy. We spent the rest of the day planning our trip, looking up restaurants and excursions. For the first time in months, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The smear campaign started on Monday. I got a text from a mutual friend asking if I was okay. Apparently, Alice had posted a long, vague story on her social media about escaping a toxic and controlling relationship. She didn't name me, but the implication was clear. She wrote about being isolated from her support system and dealing with a man who was completely enmeshed with his mother. A few of her friends left supportive comments about how brave she was. I didn't respond. I just took screenshots. Then her best friend, Jessica, got involved. She sent me a long, vicious text message calling me every name in the book. She accused me of throwing a helpless woman out on the street and said I was a pathetic mama's boy. She ended the message by saying Alice was going to take me for everything I had. I replied with a single message: "Tell your friend I have a new laptop, and the police report I filed for the stolen one has her name listed as a potential accomplice. Have a nice day." I didn't actually list Jessica on the report, but it was enough to make her go silent. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. A few days later, I got a formal-looking letter in the mail. It was from a lawyer. Alice was following through on her threats. The letter was full of legal jargon, but the gist of it was that she was demanding financial compensation for the unlawful eviction and the theft of her personal property, referring to the items she claimed to have paid for in the apartment. It was a complete work of fiction. I scanned the letter and forwarded it to a lawyer my company has on retainer. He called me back an hour later, laughing. He said the letter was an amateurish bluff, full of empty threats and incorrect legal terminology. He said we could ignore it, but it would be more effective to send a response. He drafted a cease and desist letter outlining the actual facts of the situation. That she was a guest with no lease, that she had stolen my property, and that her false accusations constituted defamation. He also included a bill for the stolen laptop and the cost of changing the locks. We sent it to her lawyer's office the next day. I didn't hear anything back for a while. I spent the week getting ready for the trip and trying to put the whole mess out of my mind. My mom and I left for Hawaii the following Tuesday. The moment we stepped off the plane in Maui, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The air was warm, the sky was blue, and for 2 weeks, I didn't have to think about Alice or her drama. My mom was like a different person too. She was relaxed and happy, free from the stress and hurt Alice had caused. We went snorkeling, we drove the road to Hana, we sat on the beach and read for hours. It was perfect. I decided to post a few pictures on my Instagram. It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about reclaiming my own life. I wanted my friends and family to see that I was okay, that I was happy. I posted a picture of my mom and me at a luau, both of us wearing leis and smiling. The caption was simple: having an amazing time at our family reunion. I posted another one of us on a catamaran, with the ocean sparkling behind us. I didn't tag Alice or mention her at all. My life was moving on, and she was no longer a part of the picture. The explosion happened on the 5th day of our trip. I woke up to my phone buzzing non-stop. It was a flood of notifications. I had dozens of missed calls from unknown numbers and a torrent of messages. Alice had seen the pictures. Her mask of the calm, collected victim had been obliterated. The voicemails were unhinged. She was screaming, crying, making threats. She accused me of flaunting my happiness in her face, of doing this deliberately to hurt her. "You were supposed to be miserable," she screamed in one message. "You were supposed to be begging me to come back." Then the text messages started. They were from her, from Jessica, from numbers I didn't recognize. They were a mix of rage and desperation. Jessica called me a cruel manipulator. Alice's messages were all over the place. One minute she was threatening to sue me for everything I had. The next she was pleading with me to talk to her, saying she had made a terrible mistake and that she still loved me. She said she had been wrong about my mom and that she would do anything to make it right. It was pathetic. Her plan had backfired completely. She thought that by isolating me, she could break me down and make me dependent on her. Instead, I had cut her out of my life like a cancer and was now thriving without her. Her seeing me happy, especially with the very person she had tried to turn me against, was something her narcissistic mind couldn't handle. I didn't reply to any of the messages, I just blocked the numbers as they came in. I showed my mom a few of the tamer ones, and she just shook her head sadly. "Some people are just black holes, sweetie," she said. "They try to suck all the light out of everyone around them." We spent the rest of our vacation enjoying the sunshine, and I put my phone on silent. The drama could wait. I was on my own time now. When I got back home, the apartment felt different. It was clean and quiet. It was mine again. A large pile of mail was waiting for me, and in it was another letter from Alice's lawyer. This one had a much different tone. It was a formal offer to resolve all matters amicably. It stated that Alice would drop all her financial claims if I agreed not to pursue criminal charges for the stolen laptop. It was a retreat, a full surrender. She knew she had no legal leg to stand on, and my lawyer's letter had probably terrified her. There was a package waiting for me as well. It was the laptop, shipped back with a note from Alice. It was a single, tear-stained page, full of apologies and excuses. She wrote that she had been insecure, that she was jealous of my relationship with my mom, that she had let her friends influence her. It was a long list of reasons, but none of them were an apology for the person she was. It was all about how her actions were a result of her feelings, with no real acknowledgement of the pain she had inflicted. I read the letter once, then threw it away with the box. A few weeks went by. I had my lawyer formally accept her offer, on the condition that she sign a document agreeing to have no further contact with me or my mother, ever again. She signed it. The silence was golden. One of our mutual friends reached out to me wanting to apologize. He said that after the Hawaii pictures, Alice had a complete meltdown in their group chat, revealing the entire story in a fit of rage, how she had sent the text from my phone, how she had planned to isolate me. He sent me the screenshots. Seeing her own words, bragging about her plan, and then lamenting how it had all gone wrong, was the final nail in the coffin. She had exposed herself completely. Her friends, even Jessica, started to back away from her. Nobody wants to be associated with that level of crazy. Last I heard, Alice had to move back in with her parents in another state. She couldn't afford her life in the city without my support. She had burned all her bridges and was left with nothing. She tried to create a reality where she was the center of my universe, and when I refused to live in it, her entire world collapsed. Last night, I had my mom over for dinner at my place. I cooked her favorite meal. We sat and talked for hours, laughing. The apartment felt warm and full of light. It was peaceful. My life is simpler now, and so much better. I dodged a bullet. A big one. The whole experience taught me that sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to play someone's twisted game and choosing your own happiness instead. I poured my mom another glass of wine and enjoyed the quiet.